Did you know that Queen Elizabeth II was the longest reigning British monarch and the world's oldest reigning female head of state? Did you also know that she could handle an SA-80 rifle? She was the Queen of England for approximately 70 years and 214 days, plus she saw 12 prime ministers come and go. Her Majesty also witnessed 12 US presidents in the White House and watched 13 different Archbishops of Canterbury take their seats in Canterbury Cathedral. She is a legend with a fantastic story to tell. Hi there and welcome to Film Rockstar. In today's video, we'll look at the top 10 cool facts about Queen Elizabeth II that you probably didn't know. You'd be amazed what she could do even in her old age. But before we go all in, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do so now and turn on the notifications to stay updated. Alright, let's start at number 10. Skydiving with James Bond.
Good evening, Mr. Bond.
Good evening, Your Majesty.
Queen Elizabeth II loved being theatrical. She always wanted to do her despite being royalty, and this grand stunt she pulled off shows us how much. During the Olympics in 2012, the Queen joined in on the fun. We could see the Queen jumping off a helicopter into the stadium with Daniel Craig, the new James Bond. Alright, so she didn't actually jump into the Olympic Stadium, her stunt double did. However, millions of viewers at the time thought it was the Queen and they marveled. This is how the stunt was pulled off. In a nod to the James Bond series, Daniel Craig's Bond visits Buckingham Palace to see the Queen and her pet corgis. They then board a chopper and seem to go skydiving, only for the actual Queen to appear wearing the same outfit. Elizabeth the Bond girl? Who knew? Number 9. She kept her house name instead of her husband's. Taking a new name upon ascending the throne is something of a custom, but it's not compulsory for everyone to do. However, while names are essential in royal families, surnames are tricky with the British royal family since they didn't have any for years. So instead, they went by a house name, which in the Queen's case was Windsor, which could also double as a surname. After becoming Queen, she wanted her house name Windsor to be passed down the line instead of Mountbatten, which was her husband's name. She didn't want to follow the patriarchal trend where only the names of men were given to the children. Elizabeth kept the name Windsor and passed it on to her children. Although descendants can use the hyphenated Mountbatten Windsor, it's pretty cool to think she didn't break despite the pressure on her to change it. She was the Queen, after all, she could do anything. She was that cool. Number 8. Cutting her cake with a sword. During one of Her Majesty's visits to the G7 summit in Cornwall, she was presented with a huge sheet cake. However, despite Camilla Bowles and Kate Middleton watching, the British Queen insisted on using a ceremonial sword to cut the cake instead of a knife. A video shows Her Majesty stopping for a second as someone off camera reminds her that she had a knife, and then the Queen replied,
I know there is.
before stating she wanted to use something more unusual. Cool, right? Being royalty doesn't mean you always have to go by the books. Queen Elizabeth constantly showed us that. Number 7. Handled a psychopath by herself. In 1982, Her Majesty encountered a strange man who walked into her room with his hand bleeding. He had broken into the palace that night, which wasn't his first time. Alone with the man, she didn't forget her training and found a way to get him engaged in a talk for about 10 minutes. She was stalling for time. Finally, help arrived and the man was arrested. It was confirmed that the intruder had a mental disorder and he was placed in a psychiatric hospital.
I don't know if I went into the Queen's bedroom. I don't really know. I went into a room, I remember seeing a lady. I can't really say that even if it was the Queen.
This was a delicate moment, and how Her Majesty handled the situation just showed her level of coolness. Number 6. She served in World War II. When Britain entered World War II, everyone pitched in. You'd think being royalty alone was enough for the British royal family, but when Queen Elizabeth turned 18, she flew at the chance to serve her country. She drove military trucks and ambulances for the Women's Auxiliary Territorial Service. She even knew how to repair them as well. As of 2017, the Queen was the only female British royal and last surviving head of state to serve in World War II. Number 5. The first sitting monarch to send an email. Being Queen for 7 decades means sending thousands of letters and invites to your subjects, which mostly require a lot of sitting. But in today's digital world, she made sure to keep up with times and be more new school. Queen Elizabeth was the first sitting monarch to send an email. The date was March 26, 1976, and the ARPANET, the computer network that eventually evolved into the internet, had just come to the royal signals and radar establishments in Malvern, England. Peter Christen set up the connection, and with a tap of some buttons, Queen Elizabeth became one of the first heads of state to send an email. Even more impressive, this was at an army base, years before the personal email addresses we know today existed. She beat us to the internet. Number 4. Didn't flinch even in an assassination attempt. On June 13, 1981, Her Majesty was on her way to the Trooping the Colour ceremony when a 17-year-old boy named Marcus Sargent fired 6 shots at her just for clout. So, while it was quite a shock, no one was hurt. Good thing the shots were all blanks. The incredible thing about the incident was how Her Majesty handled it. She just calmed her horse, kept her cool, and continued riding as though nothing had happened. Oh, badass at its peak. Number 3. Coolest photobomber of all time. So it turns out the Queen enjoyed photobombing people's selfies. At the 2014 Commonwealth Games in Glasgow, the Queen was caught joining in on a selfie with hockey player Jay Taylor. She wasn't invited to. The Queen was smiling in the photo to prove that she enjoyed it. However, this is not her first rodeo. She also photobombed a selfie of another young lad. This brilliant photo was captured by 32-year-old Alan Bamford, who was out at Newbury races for the day, and whilst he was taking pictures of the horses, noticed the Queen pop up behind him. Who could resist but take a photo? And it looks like the lovely Queen embraced the moment from the genuine smile on her face. Number 2. She was a great shot. Being tough comes with the territory of being Britain's ruling monarch. The Queen was not only the head of state, but also the head of the armed forces. Life for the Queen wasn't just about hosting fancy tea parties and spending time with her beloved corgis. She had a country to defend, so she was trained on how to fire a rifle. Back in 1993, she got to show off some of her shooting skills at an Army Rifle Association meeting in Bisley. A photograph from the event shows the Queen firing the last shot on a standard SA-80 rifle under the supervision of her chief instructor, Corps Lieutenant Colonel George Harvey. She trained with a Tommy gun given to her by Winston Churchill in Buckingham Palace Gardens during the Second World War in the event of a Nazi invasion. Sneaking up on her at night definitely would have ended up differently than you thought. Number 1. She loved to drive like 007. During a visit to Balmoral in 1998, the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, Abdullah, was left in shock when he encountered speed at the hands of a Queen. After having lunch with the Queen, she asked to give Abdullah a tour around the estate, but to his surprise, the old lady literally meant what she said, because there she was sitting on the driver's seat, holding the wheels and turning the ignition. At that time, females were not allowed to drive cars in Saudi Arabia, which posed a conflict of interest. He mainly was perplexed because she wasn't just a female, but the Queen of England. Behind those wheels, the Queen wasn't just driving, she let out her inner 007, leaving Abdullah in panic mode. He became even more afraid as the Queen accelerated the Land Rover along the narrow Scottish estate roads, talking the whole time. At one point, the Crown Prince had to beg the Queen to slow down and concentrate on the road ahead. What a woman! Well, there you have it, our top picks. What do you think about them? Nevertheless, if you enjoyed this, then you'll definitely enjoy watching our top 10 celebrity plastic surgery disaster video too. Please remember to like and subscribe to the channel to stay updated on future uploads. Till next time, bye!